I have walked for miles and miles, but I suffer an eternity in the same standpoint. I've traveled across the open shore, yet never seen all that exists within it. I do know we all live under the same moon.
It takes an awful lot of strength, inner strength, to leave your homeland, to leave your neighborhood, to leave your church, to leave the stream you knew, to leave the schools, everything you've ever known, your family.
Millions of families are demonstrating support for their Daca and Dapa because this executive action is about justice for millions of workers, parents, and students and neighbors who just want to contribute and participate in the society just like anyone else. And we are also here today because we want to send a message loud and clear. Enough is enough. Stop playing politics over immigrant families.
We are America. We are America.
Daca recipient, I know how this program changed my life. Through Daca, now I can work and support my family and obtain a driver's license and live in this country without the fear of facing deportation.
Moving to the United States at the age of 16, I didn't know the language, so I was put in the bilingual program in New Haven, and I made a lot of friends who were undocumented. Specifically, I became really good friends with this kid named Ruben, and we became really good friends, and one day he calls my home, and he tells me, my dad's a pastor, so he called me and he was like, hey, does your dad have the van? Because immigration just sent us a letter that they're gonna pick us up, and we need to be out of here like now, because if not, we're gonna get deported. So I remember just the pure panic and just started crying, and I ran to my dad and I was like, Dad, we need to get the van, we need to get Ruben and his family out so they don't get deported. So my entire family went and we grabbed all of his stuff, we threw it in the back of the car, and it was absolute panic. So you can imagine, at that moment, I wasn't getting deported and I was in pure fear. I can't even imagine what they were thinking and what they were feeling. So we grabbed all his stuff and we moved him. He stayed at my house for 2 weeks, so everything cooled down. And then, they went back to his house. Flash forward 10 years later, Ruben is on his way to become a doctor thanks to Daca, that he was able to apply. And he's still fighting to become a citizen, but things like Daca and now Dapa are giving him a chance to be able to better himself. When you hear people who are in front of a camera yelling things like, immigrants are rapists and murderers, and you have medias that sometimes kind of help that agenda kind of move forward. These are people who are running from extreme violence, who are running from, governments oppressing them. So these are people that are going to come here and make it better because they're kind, they're loving people, they're hardworking people.
My parents were undocumented for a very long time. Both my mom and my dad came from Oaxaca, so Tlacolula de Matamoros in Oaxaca. My dad works as a factory worker, so whenever he would go to work, there's always that the fear that he won't come back, or that there'll be raids or something. Especially in California, it's particularly like common for that to happen. So there's always that fear. The first step would have to be primarily Congress having to acknowledge the years of hardship, the incredible policy gaps that exist between what the Latino and immigrant population wants and needs versus what's actually there.
Yeah, we're not going to stop. And like Councilwoman Chaka mentioned, yes, Daca and Dapa is a step in the right direction, but we're eventually what we want is immigration reform.
Oh, we know that people say that we don't pay taxes. With Daca, I was able to obtain a social security number. I'm paying taxes I've been paying taxes for over the last 3 years, and every paycheck they deduct around like $300 out of my check. So we're not taking their money away. We're working. We contribute to this country. We contribute to the economy of the United States and to the culture. And we need to remind ourselves that the United States was built by immigrants, and it continues to be built by immigrants. One of the hardships is not having my family here. My family got deported in 2012, and since then I was in high school at the time. I had to walk on the stage without seeing my mother, without seeing my father being present there. Going to the first day of college and not having them when the dream of my mother was for me to be in college. So not having them, it has been a struggle, but obviously I know that I'm here and I'm fighting for them.
But that's why I'm here, to persevere through the pain and the fear, to fight for my family. No child should live with the constant stress of the possibility of losing a parent to deportation. And yet, that is all that my sisters and I have known. It's time for the Supreme Court to unfreeze Dapa. These stakes are high. I fear for my parents, and I hope and I pray for the relief that Dapa would yield not only my family, but the millions trapped in this never-ending cycle of inhumane injustice.
My family went years without going to hospitals whenever they needed emergency care because they were so afraid of being deported. And so I definitely believe that people deserve a certain amount of dignity, and this program offers them that dignity. And so that's why we need Dapa and Daca to be upheld. More importantly, though, it's time for us to have immigration reform at the federal legislative level. It's not enough to just do executive action anymore. We need actual immigration reform.
Me llaman un soñador y tienen razón. Vivo para soñar una generación, ser escuchado y poder ver el verdadero océano una vez más. El océano con un color que ya no recuerdo. Vivimos bajo la misma luna.